Perfect.
So hi, my name's DECLAN McMENAMIN, and I'm a regional rep for Surfers Against Sewage in Northern Ireland. I suppose my talk is about ocean activism, and it's about how I got involved and how easy it is to get involved, and how small an impact or what you can do can have a bigger impact by doing the smallest things. So my journey with Surfers Against Sewage, who I suppose I should have started off, are a UK marine conservationist charity, and they've been going from about 1990. And it was formed by a group of surfers in Cornwall, and basically were sick of the water quality within the area and basically want to do something about it. So they had a small meeting between a few surfers and came up with ideas about how they could tackle government legislation, what they could do to make an impact. And I don't know if you are aware, like one of the iconic images from Surfers Against Sewage are, the activists in wetsuits and gas masks with giant sort of inflatable turds and things like that. There are protests outside Parliament buildings and Westminster and things like that. So there's quite a lot of sort of iconic images that Surfers Against Sewage have done. My involvement, I suppose, I started surfing later in life, and thankfully I started surfing in Ireland. My first surf lesson was in Dewey by Kevin Tobin, who was one of the Irish surfing champions a long time ago. And even though I traveled the world and I had no interest in surfing when I was younger, I'm glad that when I did start surfing that it was at home. And then that was 2005, I think. And from that, I got the buzz. That was it. I was like, oh, this is me. And I suppose it wasn't just about being active and oh, I want to be a surfer or whatever else. To me, there's a lot more to surfing than just being in the water and catching waves or whatever. There's correlation between surfing and blue spaces and mental health and wellness. Which I've been involved with the Wave Project in Northern Ireland, and also liquid therapy in Donegal, where we teach kids how to surf and just to get through sort of difficult times, trauma. So me personally, that's what I got from surfing through my own background in Northern Ireland. So I got that sense of being in the water, being alone, being in that sort of environment. And I suppose my journey started from there, where if you're in that environment, you're aware more, so you're conscious of plastic pollution, you're conscious of litter, you're conscious of, I suppose, litter on the beach and things like that. So I wanted to, I suppose, do some sort of research and do more with where I was. So I came across Surfers Against Sewage because we have a small family of 3 kids and a wife, and once you start looking at areas of what can I do more, there's just a vast, I suppose, there's so many sort of different things that you can do. So we started, like, how do we reduce our plastic consumption within a family? What other alternatives are there? And usually, unfortunately, the alternatives are usually more costly than they are. Like, we all know about supermarkets and things like that. It's easier to buy a bag of lemons than in a plastic sort of bag than it is to buy loose ones. So it's that sort of thing. So I started looking into sort of where I could get this information from, and came across Surfers Against Sewage and thought, right, okay, they had a good ethos and what they were doing, and I wanted to get involved. So I joined as a subscription membership and paid, and I got the Pipeline magazine, which is a magazine that Surfers Against Sewage produce on what they're doing, what you can do, and just to give you ideas about, how to make an impact. So from there, they started, they were recruiting reps, and Northern Ireland was one of the, I suppose they only had a few reps within Northern Ireland, and I was living there at the time. So I thought, well, this is something that I want to pursue, and sort of grew from the end. So became a rep, got involved in beach cleans and plastic-free school programs that they do. So where you would go into a school and teach kids about, I suppose the environment, what they can do, and you take them through a sort of process of becoming a plastic-free school, where they're sort of the teachers are, take them on. They're given lesson plans. They write to the local MP or MLA or whatever it may be. They do a beach clean or a litter clean. So so I was just involved in things like that. But for me, it was always like most charities who have I suppose a headquarters. So obviously Surfers Against Sewage are UK based. So a lot of the stuff that Surfers Against Sewage were doing was UK or Southern England. So to me, it was like, well, there's a lot of stuff there that's not relevant to Northern Ireland. So as a small team, and as we grew, having regional reps in the area and trying to get them within each county, Surfers Against Sewage made a decision that they would have what they call chapters. So basically like regional chapters, Scotland, Northern Ireland, North of England, these, so Northern Ireland a couple of years ago became a chapter, which meant then our journey could continue, but we had a say in what was relevant to us. So we could get involved with local groups and local activists and sort of have that collaboration where if there was community groups that wanted to get involved in Surfers Against Sewage, or they were doing something and wanted a presence, then it meant that because we had our own chapter, we could get involved more and then grow our following, as a word, and sort of do more. What can we do as ocean activists? How can we help you, and how can you help us? So this continued, and then COP26 came along, and for the first time we organized a sort of protest in collaboration with COP26. So we were there just as a party, I suppose. So for me, it was a big step out of my comfort zone, and getting a team together and sort of putting it in social media and getting involved. Then last April, Surfers Against Sewage had what they called their National Day of Protest. So they had 12 protests throughout the UK, and Northern Ireland had its own, which was based in Belfast. And this was to call out the water companies. Now, sort of this, again, UK and I suppose England and Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales have different sort of governing bodies. Mostly in England, the water companies are privatized. So, and I don't know whether you've seen any media, there's been a huge uptake in media responses to a lot of the sewage pollution, even in Ireland as well. I saw something with regards to some of the beaches had failed water quality. I think it was Donegal and Galway. So the protests were around water quality. So I organised our own within Belfast, and we walked around the Titanic. We had images of Harland and Wolff, the cranes in the background, and we had a small group there, and we called out. We had when we had all the local media, which was great for us. As a small team, we were being recognised, and it was like, well, who are Surfers Against Sewage, and what are they doing? Because as I say, with it being a UK-based charity, there was never really a presence. You had a couple of reps, but who really knew? And then I suppose it has continued from there. Northern Ireland had its first Climate Crack Festival 2 years ago. We couldn't be there, but we were there last year. So this is the first sort of climate festival that happened in Ormer Park in Belfast, and it was all environmental groups that came, and we were there as well. Surfers Against Sewage putting the word out, not really pushing to become a member. It was more about awareness. Here's what we're doing. We're campaigning. What can we do? Is there anything that we can take forward with you or give you support? So we found that really beneficial. And from then, just recently there, we had our second sort of year of National Day of Protests, and we had a paddle out in Loch Ney. So there's been a lot of reports over the last few years with regards to the water quality in Northern Ireland and sewage pollution, and how many sort of spills there have been, that how many CSO overflows. And it's been highlighted that Northern Ireland gets 40% of its water from Loch Ney, but yet there's a massive influx of just pollution. And most recently there, it's been reported last year there was 2 dogs died in a certain area in Loch Ney, where a lot of dog walkers would go. So we raised it. We did a report in the area with the media, and there was a report done from DERA and they had said that the dog died because of these algal blooms that can cause through heat. I'm not a marine biologist or a water specialist, unfortunately. So we sort of questioned that, well, how did these dogs die? And it was never followed up. But there 2 weeks ago, there was a couple of more dogs had died, and then yet again this week there has been more. So Ruby Free, who is one of our regional reps and is very well clued in on water quality, approached the media again and said, that this isn't right. We called out NI Water and DERA basically about, well, what is causing this? And Ruby and they'd come back and said it has to do with the heat and this blue and green algae. But as Ruby pointed out, that it's more, a lot of this is the interaction between agricultural runoff and sewage pollution. So it's not just down to the heat and what's in the water. It's like sort of stagnant water. So I say just recently there was a lot of media hype in Northern Ireland, and again, Surfers Against Sewage were involved, bringing this profile, I suppose, bringing it sort of to the media attention and challenging NI Water, and that's, I suppose that's where we are, and that's where I come from an ocean activist point of view, is more, well, it's okay to challenge, but it's having that expertise behind you, that if you're putting yourself out there and questioning, water quality reports, then you need to have that sort of experience and expertise behind you to back up what you're calling out, and then to challenge when you get a response from the likes of NI Water or DERA. So I suppose that's where we are within, I suppose, Surfers Against Sewage in Northern Ireland. Like me myself, as Donna has pointed out, I've moved from County Down in Northern Ireland, the east coast, to Sligo within the last couple of years. COVID sort of threw a curveball, and we took the opportunity to grab it. As much as I love Northern Ireland, I love where I am, and especially with being a surfer, I'm sort of blessed here with what we have on the west coast. But my activist journey, will continue here. I've been approaching Surfers Against Sewage for a while about, there has been people in contact with me saying, can we not have reps within Ireland as a whole, from different areas, surf schools wanting to be affiliated with Surfers Against Sewage, because the only not the only, Surf Rider Foundation Europe are similar to what we do, but they don't have a grassroots movement, I can nearly say that, as we do. They don't have that, I suppose, the regional rep program where people can get involved in their areas and sort of promote Surfers Against Sewage or help communities. There's a lot Surfers Against Sewage can do with regard or can offer with regards to communities, whether it be plastic free schools that I've spoke about, where we can go into schools and teach them and go through a lesson plan program, and they get an award to become a plastic free school at the end of it. And once they meet their objectives, then we have plastic free communities where you'll have a community that will sign up for this and become a plastic free community, where they're challenging supermarkets, they're challenging the litter in the area, and it works really well, and it has worked really well in England. And Northern Ireland, it hasn't really, the councils would be involved in this. There hasn't really been that uptake from community groups, and that's just something that, as a chapter, as we grow, like there's only 8 of us, and we're sort of scattered about. Me being in a different country, I suppose, well, as they call it. But as we grow, we want to have that sort of team that we can reach out and support different communities and do a lot more. But as I say, we're still in our infancy, but we are sort of making noise with regards to a following, if you know what I mean, not a fan base, but we have more people subscribing to our social media. Just recently there, I've been working with DERA and AFBI for the last 2 years. So Surfers Against Sewage have a Safer Seas and River Service app. So there's only 6 locations within Northern Ireland that are actually part of the water modelling program as part of Swim NI. So they're tested, and when it goes from the bathing season from the 1st of June to the 15th of September, then you can go on to the water quality report and make an informed decision in these 6 locations whether it's safe to swim or you want to make that decision to swim. So this app, Surfers Against Sewage, it's been in Scotland, England, and Wales for a while now, but because of legislation and because Northern Ireland is its own beast, weird and wonderful as it is. We just there the other day, I say it's been a long journey, have the 6 locations on the app. So it means then that people can download the app. So whether you're traveling in the UK or if you're a wild swimmer or sea swimmer, you can then look at the app and you can subscribe and get emails. So in one of the locations in Newcastle, County Down, or Ballyholme, which is reduced from being a water quality action to, I think it's sufficient now. So it has poor water quality, and there is a lot of sort of swimmers there or dippers, so they'd go there. So with this app, if there's been a heavy rainfall or if the model predicts that it's not safe, you'll get an alert to say, you leave it a couple of days, don't swim there. So it's been a huge thing for us in Northern Ireland to achieve that. Unfortunately, out of the 26 locations, there is only the 6 that have, that they got funding to produce this forecasting. So that's where we are with that. And yeah, sort of backtracking here. So what I was saying was where I am here in Sligo, that I would want to see if we can, even though it's a UK charity, can expand within Ireland. I've done beach cleans in Mullockmore and Streda Beach and in Donegal, and just as Surfers Against Sewage, we have a thing called Million Mile Beach Clean, where so anybody within the world can sign up, and we'll send out the kit for them, and gloves, litter pickers, bags, and then we record that. So as part of the Million Mile Beach Clean, to see how many miles we can clean within a year. So, and we also do a brand audit. So if you record what litter you're picking up, then we challenge, like Coca-Cola's always been the biggest sort of one. And this all, and other sort of companies to say, well, what are you doing? So yeah, you're producing this product, but where's your circular economy? What happens to this? And also calling out government to look at the deposit refund scheme. And this is where I suppose Surfers Against Sewage get its sort of ammunition. So by doing the beach cleans and getting a brand audit, we can see what's being dumped, what's in the sea, and what's lying about. So yeah, so that's where I am. I want to progress, me personally, within Ireland, but there's a lot of it hasn't been a no. There's a lot of red tape, and I suppose as a charity, it's always to do with funding. If you're being funded by UK, can they fund projects that are happening in Europe? But then I suppose it's down to our trustees and the fundraisers about where we can tap in if we can expand within Ireland, where we can get our funding from, whether it be Europe, whether it be somewhere else, and that's my next goal. Because even though I've led on a lot of things in Northern Ireland, where I am now, to me, it's not sustainable for me to continue doing, being active in Northern Ireland when there's much greater things that I could be doing in my own area and in my own community. And there's even in Tullahan, which is in Leitrim, it's the sort of as you cross from Donegal, you see had Donegal, a wee bit of Leitrim, and then into Sligo. There's a huge there's a great surf break there, but the sewage pollution there is horrendous. Like there's actually surfers swimming there recently in waste, like in soil. And I'm trying to find out more about it from EPA and sort of Irish Water, because from what I've been told by the surfers in the area, the sewage pipe had just been extended out to sea. So it's still pumping out sewage. So that means the tide comes in and out. So whatever's pumped out is going to come back in. So that's something that I want to pursue personally, because I know I have the support from the local community and the surfers in the area. So it's just me. And I suppose maybe this is where the talk goes, Donna. It's like, well, I'm doing what maybe you want to do in your local area. It's like, well, if the water quality isn't great, it's like, well, where do I go and who's the right people to talk to, and how do I challenge that? So is it down to the Environmental Protection Agency? Is it down to Irish Water, well, obviously if they're pumping sewage out, but then it's like, well, where can I maybe get the resources to see what's been done in the area, how often these sewage spills are, and then also can I get, water quality tests and tests at the right time, because there's no point testing water after there's been a sewage spill, because at some stage it'll be diluted and go out to sea. It's testing it at that stage, and at the end of the day, it that has an impact on the sea itself and also the health of those people who are surfing, swimming, and who are making the most of what's on our coastline. That's yeah. I probably rambled enough and went off in various directions, but I'm hoping you've got a lot from that from me personally about why I got involved. There's probably more I could go into, but or where I want to go and where the journey's taken me. So I'm happy to end there unless somebody wants me to go off in a certain area.